Sponsored by the James Madison Council and the Institute of Museum and Library Services and the National Endowment for the Humanities.
Welcome to the National Book Festival. I'm Roswell Encina. Today we are joined by actor, philanthropist, and writer, the legendary Michael J. Fox. His new book is No Time Like the Future. And welcome, Michael J. Fox, to the National Book Festival. How are you?
I'm fine, Roswell. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I've got to ask you, we've all been going through this, like the entire country, the whole world has collectively experienced, a very devastating thing. How are you and your family coping through all this?
Well, it was an amazing experience for us as it was for everybody else, and it happened on so many different levels. In fact, I wrote the book, much of the book during the quarantine, when my family was quarantined, and I call her my producer. She's not my editor, but she's my partner, and we've been producing television forever together. And I dictate to her, and she types it up. So we were on, of course, virtual. We were on FaceTime, and I would just sit there and dictate my book and read from my notes that only I can read, and she would write, and it got to where I would leave the room and go get a glass of water for myself, and I'd bring one back for her because I couldn't come. Like, she was in this box, but she was in the room with me, and it came that way with everybody in my life. My mother, who's in Canada, just people existing in other realities, and it takes some getting used to. But it was an interesting time because I was writing such a personal memoir at a time when my concerns were global. In my other world, my concerns were global, but my concerns professionally were very, very personal. And I think that one colored the other. The experiences intermingled. But my family and I were in quarantine, took shelter for months, and it was really an amazing time. We did a lot of reading, we did a lot of talking, we did a lot of eating, we did a lot of sharing, and it was really a real privilege. And all the time we were aware of what it was for other people and what they were experiencing. People saying goodbye in hallways and never seeing loved ones again. And it was a difficult time for the country, but I think we're coming through it.
Yeah, I know you've written several books through the course of your career. Why did you decide this book at this time?
This book just kind of happened. I was going to write a book about golf. I thought I'd write a book about golf because golf gave me a nice kind of second wind in terms of socially and athletically, and just a nice thing for that point in my life. And so I was writing this book about golf. I was making notes about it, but my notes tend to go off golf, and they start to go off in other areas about Parkinson's, because I was going to try to do this Venn diagram of golf and Parkinson's, and they both suck and they both are really hard, and so it started to go that way. Then I got this spinal thing and a tumor on my spine, and I had that operated on. Then it broke my arm, and in the recovery from that spinal, I had to learn to walk again, and I fell and hurt myself, and I found my optimism, my much valued optimism, leaving the scene quickly. I mean, just vacating me. I'm out of the lemonade business. It just really reached a dark point for me. And as I experienced it, I came through it with a lot of lessons learned from Gus, my dog, and my father-in-law, not necessarily in that order, but so many people in my life, my wife Tracy, my kids, my friends. I saw something that we'll get to it eventually in the conversation, but that with gratitude, optimism becomes sustainable. I just got that. It just came to me, and I said, that's what it is. You can get through anything if you find gratitude. If you something to be grateful for.
I know that was your advice from your father-in-law when he said that. How much did that sustain you and your family through this past year?
A lot, because I really started to see it. I mean, it wasn't just the words. It was like I could see my gratitude, and I could see in something I often remark one of my children would make. Children are all grown up, but some remark they make, and I just go, "Wow, that's amazing." I mean, it's like it's a shame that all the stuff in Minneapolis that happened in the middle of the COVID. They were it's such profound pronouncements about it in the expressions of their solidarity and their concern, and I was just like, wow, I hate that this is happening, but I love that it's bringing this out in my kids and bringing this out among their friends, and it's just an interesting time because for every rock, you turn it and see the sun on the other side. It could be gold on the other side. It's just and we have to especially think that way now, because it's so easy to make a negative choice, to make a negative turn, and we really need to make positive, forthright forward steps.
And I know you mentioned it earlier. A lot of people are familiar with the term, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. At the very beginning of the book, you said, I'm out of the lemonade business. I mean, if you can't sustain, being optimistic and positive, how are the rest of us mere mortals able to go through the rest of this? So,
Well, I said that. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to ask you, what's your advice to everyone who are still suffering or are languishing as we get to the other side of this pandemic?
Well, I would say whether it has to do with the pandemic or whether it has to do with the ancillary side issues that come employment issues or family issues or any education issues. It's just that it sounds really trite, but I don't mean to be glib, but accept it. Accept. See what it is. Look at what it is. Don't be afraid to look at it, and don't be afraid to look at all the nasty corners of it and all the stuff that's there. But don't look at what's not there, and don't look at what's there. It doesn't take up all your life. It doesn't take up all your space. There's still room for you to thrive on the edges, and you can and eventually that'll shrink the central problem. It's just holding on to that. Holding on to it, like I said, you be grateful. You be grateful. You may not like your working conditions, but you're grateful you have a job, and then you can run it from there. Or you may not like teaching your kids over the computer, but you're grateful that they're still in school and in some fashion. So I mean, it's all. My position or my circumstance when I got that loan, I said that about lemonade and I said a lot of other things. I was sitting under the phone on the wall in my kitchen with a shattered arm. I shattered my humerus. It was all torn up and useless. And I'm waiting for the ambulance. And I called my assistant. She called an ambulance. And so I had this time, and it was kind of like the young what am I saying? The young student under the Bodhi tree, Thinking, I was on the kitchen floor, slumped under a phone with a broken arm, and I just said, "Who am I to tell people to be optimistic?" Well, I'm miserable right now. I'm really angry and I'm frustrated at myself, and I'm angry and not angry at anybody. I'm angry at me for letting this happen. And the Parkinson's wasn't my fault. I couldn't do anything about that. The spinal tumor wasn't my fault, but the falling was my fault because I was not careful. And then by not being careful, I was not being respectful to my doctors and my healthcare people that helped me. So my family that stuck by me through my rehabilitation and my friends and I just felt I'd let them all down. And I thought I'd let the Parkinson's community down because I'm telling them to chin up and it'll all be okay and it's forward to the cure. And here I am whining and mewling on the floor of my kitchen. So that was the low point. But and it's okay to go there. I mean, that's what I learned. So it's good to go there. It's good to go to that low point and really look around and get help if you need it and find answers to your questions. But what you can't do is run away from it. You can't, then it doesn't happen.
You have an amazing support system between your wife, your kids, your in-laws, your friends, your golfing buddies, and your dog Gus. On behalf of the Library of Congress, we want to send our condolences to you and your family regarding Gus. How big did Gus play, your family play, in bringing you back up?
But Gus was my son went to college in it was the year that President Obama was elected, 2008. And he and I was left. I always joke. I had my 3 daughters and my wife. I was drowning in a sea of estrogen. I had no male contacts in the house. So we were on vacation at Martha's Vineyard, and I saw an ad on a bulletin board outside at a community store, and it was for this dog. They called him Astro at the time, but it was this. You could tell it was a puppy, but you could tell it was going to be huge. And I like the idea of a huge dog. So I took note of it, and I went home, and then Trace said she was on a bike ride and stopped at the Schumacher Independent of me. I saw this billboard on that. I said, Astro, you saw that? And she said, yeah. I said, well, let's go find this dog. So we tracked down the owner and went and saw the dog, and I just immediately knew. And he as I took him and he's got bigger. He was 30 pounds when I got him. He was 120 pounds as biggest. And he knew that I had issues, and he never jumped on me. He never pushed me. He never put weight on me. He was always really, really careful when other people. Let me see if I can show you. Yeah, picture here of when I would do work out and do yoga and stuff. If I would complain if the exercise was too strenuous, and I made a noise, he'd get really concerned, and he'd come over and he'd sit on the mat, and he just like he'd protect me. I was doing it virtual with my trainer, my physical therapist, over the voice, say FaceTime, and so he would hear that voice and he'd come running in to protect me, and that's Gus in a nutshell.
I do want to ask you about your father-in-law, Tracy's father. He gave you some great advice that you talk about in the book. He says, with gratitude, optimism becomes sustainable. I think those are very wise words that we could all kind of hold on to. How much did he mean to you, and how much did his words help you?
He was a great man. He was a really pure. His optimism and his optimism and his positive energy was so real. There's nothing at all synthetic about it. He just said he always said it gets better. It gets better. And he when I had difficulty, like one of my favorite things I ever had to say in my life was sentence I ever got to utter was, Steve, this is President Obama. This is my father-in-law, Steve. And it was like, that was a great moment. So you live to please him, but he had a law firm, a law practice, and he would help people make decisions, life decisions, whether to buy a house, whether to keep their old job, get a new job, or do whatever, make big decisions in their life about the children or whatever. And he had a sign on his desk that said "professional fear remover," and that's the best description of him I could think of. He just could zone in on your fear and alleviate it, and by telling you the possibilities that you had, that you didn't know you had capability to do certain things. And I mean, you can say no to people. You can say yes to things that he'd say, get the house, get the new job, have another kid, all positive stuff. And he helped me a lot during when I was first diagnosed, and I was struggling with the idea that I married this beautiful, vivacious, amazing, intelligent, brilliant woman, and then they saddled her with this potential health outcome. And she was really great. Obviously, she was really supportive. But he said, "Don't worry." I don't know what to say, but feel bad for your daughter because she's in this situation. He said, "Don't. She did good."
I was at a commencement over the weekend, and somebody asked the students who were graduating, what have they learned from this past year, or has it changed them? What do you tell your kids in your optimistic way of what happens now, post this pandemic for them?
I think that by thinking about it's a rare opportunity like I said, to think of to be by yourself and to spend a lot of quality time with certain people, and a lot of time by yourself, and enjoy that time, but at the same time be developing a concern and an empathy for other people because of what they're going through. It's really like being in quarantine, protected from it, didn't make it any less. Oh great, we're safe. Right? We're safe, but what others are going through. And I think that anytime there's a burst of empathy like that, anytime there's a burst of awareness about other people's experience on this planet, what they're going through, and what their needs are, and what their fears are, and what their goals are, and their wishes and their ambitions, and we can tap into that, and we can rally around a common cause and achieve great things. It's so the thing about this country is it's just we're so on the cusp of greatness and on the cusp of disaster at the same time. And you just know if you're a positive person and an optimistic person like me, you just know just take that one thing and just push us over the line, and our lives will be so much easier and safer and more what we want them to be.
It goes well with what you wrote in your book. You say that, can you be an optimist and a realist at the same time? Have you found the answer to that? Can we?
Yeah, you can be a realist and an optimist at the same time. In fact, I think it requires being a realist to be an optimist. You have to look at what the ground is around you. You have to be real about it and say these facts are non disputable. These are the realities as we see them. So we approach that reality with respect for it and respect for it that it's the truth, and then we can act on it, and we can see. I always picture it as a block of there's room around it. There's room around any problem, and in that room, in that margin, you can find answers.
I'm a child of the 80s. I grew up watching you on Family Ties, grew up watching the Back to the Future movies. So your legacy in cinema is clearly cemented. Here at the Library of Congress, we added Back to the Future to the National Film Registry a couple years ago, and every year we show films on the lawn, and Back to the Future is probably one of the most requested films. Till this day, why do you think that those films, especially Back to the Future, still resonate? And what would you like to tell the fans of the film up there?
Well, I think of it in terms of it's funny. I just thought of when you said that people sit on the lawn and watch the movies. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Uh, there's a song by James Taylor that for a lot of reasons I relate to. It's called "That's Why I'm Here," and he says that fortune and fame is a curious game. Perfect strangers call you by name, pay good money to hear fire and rain again and again and again. Somewhere like summer coming back every year, got their baby, got their pancake, got their bucket of beer. I break into a grin from ear to ear because that's why I'm here. And I just feel that it's just such a privilege to be a part of people's lives you don't know, and to inform transitions in their lives, whether it's to television or film or whatever. Back to the Future is like when I was a kid in Canada, we had like two channels, and you got what you got on the TV. But every year around Christmas time, they showed The Wizard of Oz, and I'd watch it every year. And we had black and white TV, so I never had to transition. That was lost on me. But I love the Flying Monkeys, and I was having a conversation with someone about Back to the Future and how transgenerational it is, how young kids love it and old people love it, and it's one of those movies that struck a chord. And I say, yeah, I just realized I'm now a flying monkey.
Now, we know that your film and TV legacy is clearly cemented, but I should say that one of your biggest legacies is the Michael J. Fox Foundation. You've raised more than $1 billion for Parkinson's research. Do the people that you meet through the foundation motivate you, inspire you? I know people like Jimmy Choi that you mentioned in the book, and just some everyday people that you could meet on the street, like at the Cinnabon, at a rest stop.
Yeah, it's amazing to feel connected to people that you don't know. It's like I said, the line, curious game, people, perfect strangers call you by name. They're sincere in their approach, and people I've never had nasty people to me. I've just been lucky. I've always had people be very nice to me. Um, I think that with the foundation, it originally started out that I wanted to focus on research, and I felt that I talked to a lot of scientists, and I was at a pivot point in my life where I was deciding whether to start to grind out my career a little longer, or get right to work on the foundation's work and promote science. So I decided to focus on science, and we figured, talking to scientists, that the science was ahead of the money. That if we could really raise the funds, that it could be immediately funneled to worthwhile uh, uh, projects. And that happened, and then we got a good start. We kind of, it was a broken system, and we found ways to circumvent problems and correct other problems, and create a good relationship with science community, and with pharma and all that stuff. But along the line, I realized that there was this patient community that was waiting to be activated, and waiting to be involved, and waiting to be able to be a part of their own rescue, and to be the answer that they're looking for. And they get involved with clinical trials, and we got involved in collecting just personal data, personal information about their life experiences, and it became a very patient-driven foundation, and then it started to flourish. And because when I first disclosed that I had Parkinson's, it was considered pretty much an old person's disease, and so therefore, because those people weren't necessarily vibrant and active in the community on a daily basis, we didn't see it, we didn't know much about it. So I kind of, in an unbidden way, became someone who could be an example of the fact that it affected a younger population, and that we had the time and the energy to facilitate either good therapies or possibly cure. So it exploded into a patient movement. And Jimmy Choi, who you mentioned, American Ninja, he's an amazing guy, and he's an example of never quit, never give up, and he's going to be part of the answer.
You say in your book, if you don't take risks, there's no room for luck. Do you think your optimism helps you carry you through making tough decisions, whether it's your career or medical decisions?
Yeah, I think you just I always feel that well, one thing is I think I'm a good judge of people, of doctors, of people that involved in the foundation, or people that become available to me to work with. And I've been really lucky, again, with some people, some directors that maybe others wouldn't consider, that I thought were great, and it turned out great. And without the risk, you don't get the luck. Without the some material that I thought was like writing this book, this latest book about, again, in the middle of a global pandemic. I'm writing about my navel, and it's a risk, but it turned out that people related to it on both terms, both levels. That it was about my navel, but it was about the world too. And so you just got to take a risk, and it's tough pouring this stuff out, because you're like, oh, I didn't even realize I felt that. And it's one of the beautiful things about writing out. Writing's been a great thing for me as things fritter away. I mean, I used to draw a lot. I can't draw now because my let my hands turn. I don't play the guitar as much anymore. I don't hike and run and boat and bike and all that stuff. But I enjoy my family. I enjoy reading. I enjoy writing. Writing has become it's become everything for me. It's just so great to take an idea and look at it from 10 different ways and realize that there's a one way to express the purity of that idea, and you're determined to find it. And if you come even close, you just sit back and go, right, that's it for the day.
This wouldn't be the National Book Festival if I don't ask you what books have inspired you or what books have you been reading during the pandemic?
During the pandemic, I wasn't reading a lot because I was writing. But books that have inspired me over the years. I mean, I like Cormac McCarthy. I like All the Pretty Horses. I like The Bird Artist, Norman Howard or Howard Norman. I keep getting his name mixed up, but he's a terrific writer, and that's a great book about redemption through art. Um, I'm always a sucker for whatever nonfiction is popping. I'm reading a book right now by, I wish I could remember his name. He's I think a Harvard professor, a Princeton professor, about running the Trump administration through the filter of Shakespeare, and comparing events to events in King Lear and other things. So it's always something interesting to read.
When you were growing up or as a kid, what books opened the world to you?
When I was growing up, well, I discovered in like fifth grade Agatha Christie, and I just got hooked on Agatha Christie. I read that, and then there were none, and then I just read as many as I could, and it was this like 10-year-old kid in Canada reading about fetes in pastoral England, and the butlers doing it with a candlestick in the pantry, and it just captivated me, and then I kind of branched out into Tolkien and started to read all those books and Hobbit and the Ring Cycle, and I just my world just expanded. I mean, it's just like books. I have books. I don't even think of like this room. I don't think of having books in, but I have like 50, 60 books in this room, and I know this isn't even one of my rooms with a lot of books in it. These books are everywhere in my life. I have to pick up a book to get a book that's underneath the book. And it's just and it can't replace it. I can't. I do audiobooks. I do, you know, scrolling on my iPad, but there's nothing like a book. It smells like a book, and it feels like a book, and it reads like a book, and it just makes you feel good like a book.
You see it firsthand through your brother-in-law, Michael Pollan, and your friend Harlan. How do you think books create a community of bringing people together, whether it's a book club or the National Book Festival, or just reading as a family?
Well, it's changing ideas. My wife had her book club last night. It was the first time in a year and a half that they actually got together. They were able to sit across from each other and drink their wine and talk about their books. And it was like she was talking about it. There was a look in her face, just like this was a great thing. She get to have her book club with her friends and talk about the books they'd read, and they'd only been able to do it by Zoom but to be together and sit around and pass wine to each other and pass bread to each other and to touch the books and pass them out, and it's a great exchange of ideas. It's a chance to get an idea, form your own opinion, form your own feelings about it, or discover your own feelings about it, and then share them, and then they influence other people's feelings, and other people's feelings influence yours. But it's all communion, and books are a great community, binding, powerful force.
After finishing your book, do you believe you're back in the lemonade business?
Oh, absolutely. Pink and yellow.
Yay. We do have a surprise for you. You were talking about earlier about some of your doctors. So I am lucky enough that I have some good friends at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. So I have a short video from someone who literally has your back. Let's look at this video.
Oh my God, this is amazing. Michael, I want to congratulate you on an absolutely amazing book. And as an American icon, you have given so many people hope and joy in their lives. And I think the message is quite clear. There is no time like the future. I wish you the best and look forward to seeing you soon.
He's a good guy.
That is not Dr. Nicholas Theodore, who operated on your spine in Baltimore. How do you feel seeing him today?
He was like I was talking about, like when you meet people and you just know the right person. I was talking to him. We were going through the mess that was my spine and my situation and diary was really, and he was going through what he could do and what he couldn't do and what could be fixed and what couldn't be fixed. We were talking about the fact that other surgeons weren't willing to take it on. He was willing to take it on, and he said, well, I understand where they're coming from, though. He said, who wants to be wanting to put Michael Fox in a wheelchair? And I said, I love that you said that. And it just, I knew that second, like he just got it. He got that it was real. That this was not a make believe thing. This was a real. It meant that I was going to go through, and he was going to get me through. And he immediately instilled trust in me that he would get me through it, and he did. And we've been good friends and followed up ever since. He's a good man, but he was reading all his bits. And when I first saw a photograph of him reading the book, I thought here's a book for my surgeon reading about my surgeon. He circled the bits. He circled his bits.
I want to end it by saying, I know you've got a birthday coming up in a couple weeks. Happy birthday from everyone here in Washington. And I wanted to, if you had to go back and tell your, 20-something self, what advice would you give them?
Slow down, and just enjoy. I was racing around so much when I was younger, and things happen for a reason. I don't necessarily say it's all planned out, but there's stuff to be learned from everything, and there's additions on the other end of every subtraction. With every subtraction, you gain something. It fills that space, and if you're a cautious steward of it, you can fill it with really good stuff. And so when I was a kid, I would fill it with parties and alcohol and fame and all that stuff. And now it's like family and love and just pleasure, bliss.
Well, we are blessed to have you today, Michael. The book is No Time Like the Future. Welcome to the National Book Festival. We hope to see you soon. You and your family have an open invitation to come here to the Library of Congress.
Oh, yeah, we'll take you up on it. Can't wait.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this conversation. And now we'd like you to hear more from the library's own experts on this topic.
Welcome to the Library of Congress. My name is Kelly Chisholm, and I am a moving image archivist in the National Audiovisual Conservation Center at the Library of Congress. The National Audiovisual Conservation Center's Packard campus, where I work, is located in Culpeper, Virginia, and it houses the moving image section, the recorded sound section, and 3 preservation laboratories for film, video, and audio materials. The campus houses nearly 9 million items in total, over 3.5 million recorded sound elements that range from wax cylinders created in 1900 to newly released podcasts, and almost 2 million moving image items that come from the 80-year history of television, the 40-year history of home video games, and the over 120-year history of motion pictures. I have one of those items from motion picture history with me today, a 35mm film print of the 1985 movie Back to the Future, directed by Robert Zemeckis and starring National Book Festival featured author Michael J. Fox. This print was donated to the collection by Universal Pictures to commemorate the addition of this film to the National Film Registry in 2007. The National Film Registry selects 25 films each year, showcasing the range and diversity of American film heritage to increase awareness for its preservation. On the surface, a science fiction comedy, it manages to comment on nostalgia, generation gaps, family folklore, and growing up. And in the center of that movie is Marty McFly, a teenage everyman thrust into an unbelievable situation and played with warmth and humor by Michael J. Fox. It's hard to underestimate the impact this film has had on the generation of children that grew up with it, many of whom are now parents and showing it to their own children. Phrases like, "Great Scott," 88 miles per hour, and "You built a time machine out of a DeLorean?" are a part of the American cultural lexicon. They are also phrases that resonate in my head for a very particular reason. When I was in high school in the mid-90s, my very creative and enterprising friend Rob Jeffers made his own remix version of Back to the Future, none too small a feat in the mid-1990s. The result, which we watched on a particularly long bus ride for marching band, was silly and haunting and funny, and it was the kind of thing that someone would only do with a movie that everyone already knew so well, that you wanted to remix it to see what else you could discover within. Back to the Future was so ubiquitous and beloved in my own childhood that Marty McFly saying, "You built a time machine out of a DeLorean?" echoes in my brain to this day, just as it echoed over Rob Jeffers' remixed version of the movie that he showed a bus full of teenagers 25 years ago. Back to the Future is one of 800 films on the National Film Registry, chosen for their contributions to American film heritage. You can find out more about the Film Registry on the Library of Congress website, loc.gov. On the library website, you can also find the National Screening Room and the National Jukebox, which makes some of those 9 million items from the moving image and recorded sound collections accessible online.